Viserys Targaryen. The late Viserys Targaryen was a king of the Seven Kingdoms. Before Viserys, there was the king Jaehaerys. Jaehaerys Targaryen. He is known as the Conciliator. His reign is known to be a very peaceful one. And so was Viserys. Viserys' reign was very much a peaceful one. But Viserys didn't go on without controversy. He named his daughter after a very sad death of his newborn son and his wife in childbirth. He named his daughter Rhaenyra Targaryen as his heir, and he stuck to that. And for some reason, he made a very poor mistake of marrying once again for, not for political alliance at all. He chose morally out of loneliness, I'd say. Loneliness and, sadness. I think it was a very poor attempt at filling a void that his wife left behind, because clearly it did not work. He ended up marrying Alicent Hightower. Anyways, he ended up marrying Alicent Hightower. He actually ended up having a son with Alicent Hightower. But yet, he still stomps his foot down with Rhaenyra. He wants Rhaenyra as heir, and he says, nope, that's who is going to be my heir. And it ruffles some feathers, and then it eventually leads to a civil war between the Blacks and the Greens. That is a very, 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 very short recap of the events of the Dance of the Dragons. Viserys Targaryen did nothing wrong. I say just about the only true mistake he made was marrying Alicent. He should have just bit that bullet and allied himself with the Valerians. As gross as that marriage is, I'm thinking for the betterment of the realm, that's probably the safest option. I also agree that he was a very, very weak ruler. He never, and it's shown, he never wore his crown unless it's a big showing event, whether he's holding his throne room or other showy events. He's never really shown to wear his crown, and he's just a very weak-willed ruler. He doesn't have a voice. His voice tends to be drowned out by other people. He doesn't have power necessarily, even though technically he is the most powerful man in the realm. He's a very weak man. But that's not why I like him. I like Viserys because he's a very complex man. He's a great father. You know, he loves his daughter with all of his heart, and he did love his wife with all of his heart. And ever since she died, that hole that was left in his heart was never filled. And he was very sad ever since. He's a very tragic character. He's a man who shouldn't have been king. Rhaenys has that same level of compassion that Viserys had, but she has a spine. In other words, she actually has a bit of a strong back, and I think she would have been a much better ruler than Viserys was. That's not why I like him. Viserys was a horrible king. In the terms of things, he snowballed. He pushed that snowball that is the Civil War down that hill just a tad faster. He made a lot of big mistakes, and I fully agree with that argument. That Viserys was not a good king. Great character, my favorite character so far in the series. Unless they somehow introduce a new character that blows me out of the water, Viserys is my favorite character in the show. He's a very complex individual who made a lot of bad mistakes, but that's the whole point, isn't it? I like Robb Stark. Robb Stark's probably one of my more favorable characters in the original series, but he made some mistakes, and he paid for those mistakes. It's very tragic. If Viserys wanted Rhaenyra to be his heir, he shouldn't have had kids. That dum-dum. Of course something was gonna happen, you know? A lot of dummy, a lot of small brain actions of that man. And his slow descent of his body, his disease, is a good representation of the weight of the crown just crushing his very soul until it was basically nothing, until he was just rotted away. And what a tragic character. However, I cannot ignore the decent argument. I don't necessarily agree with this argument, but I kind of do. During Viserys' entire reign, there was no war. There was no civil unrest. There was no conflict. It was a very peaceful reign. Him and Jaehaerys, both kings, held a very, very peaceful reign. And who's to say that if Rhaenys was actually chosen to be ruler, who's to say that a very similar thing would have not have happened? that the Greens and the Blacks started. The whole reason why Otto hated Rhaenyra is because she was a woman who was heir. And his argument was that a woman would not be accepted as queen. Who's to say? Otto was the hand of the king during that time. Who's to say that something similar wouldn't have happened if Rhaenys was chosen? Maybe the war would have started much earlier, and all those decades of peace wouldn't have happened. I think is a very decent argument that because of how peaceful the reign of Viserys was, it means like he might have been a good king. He might have been a good king because there was no conflict. He is known at the tail end of season 1 to be Viserys the Peaceful. That's a good name for him. And I think that's what makes Game of Thrones, the books mostly, but moments in the shows as well, that's what makes this series so compelling, because there are arguments like that. When Robb Stark married that woman in the books, it wasn't because he randomly fell in love with her. It's because he was doing the just thing after laying with a woman. He didn't want to cause any more bastards. And a lot of people call Robb dumb for that. I call him his father's son. He's a just, rightful man. He made the right decision in the moment. He didn't want to father bastards, so he married the woman and completely screwed up his relationship with the Freys and among other allegiances, and it ultimately led to his death. That's why I love Robb Stark so much. Robb Stark, my boy. What a man. Eddard Stark's probably my favorite book character. That first book is so nostalgic to me because of my boy Ned. Oh, I don't think those decisions are necessarily dumb because they're doing the right thing. Anyways. Rhaenys is shown to be a very much of a believer in Viserys and specifically Jaehaerys' ideology of peace and trying to avoid war at all costs. And I think that's just... Viserys lives beyond his death in both Rhaenyra and Rhaenys, in a way. And I think that's just goes to show the impact that Viserys had on the others around him. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about Viserys Targaryen because I saw so many people hate on my boy. That's my boy right there you're hating on. Alright, that man just wanted to sit down and hang out with his train set. Alright, his little train set. That Aegon destroyed that little bastard, that little cocksucker. And I just had to sit here and defend him for a little bit. Alright, a lot of people hate my boy Viserys. Alright, he's a great man who just wanted the best for his family. That was his main flaw. That was his main crucial flaw. That he just wanted to please everyone, and that's just simply impossible. When you are you're at the top of the pole, buddy. You can't please everyone below you. That was his problem. That man should have just kicked back and became a maester, man. Long rest the King Viserys Targaryen. Rest in peace, man. Anyways, I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Tell me how you think about season 2. All right, I might make a video on Daemon and everything else going on in season 2 because I'm seeing some wild stuff. All right, I'm seeing some wild stuff on season 2. All right, that Harrenhal plotline, bueno. How slow it is, also great. All right, you guys really want another season 7 and 8 where they just blow through everything? Come on, what are you thinking? They want to marinate it. All right, they don't want to repeat season 7 and 8 where they just blow past every single plot line. You gotta marinate it. You gotta take some time, alright? My goodness, I'm seeing a lot of crazy opinions out here about the recent season. And it's just... it blows my mind. I might make a video on that later. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed my little rant on our boy, Viserys Targaryen. See you all later.